Bus conversions are expensive. Let me explain. For the last 4 years, I've been working on this school bus, trying to make it into a viable home. I have tried to make this bus the Instagram-looking and functioning vehicle with all the tricks and doodads. And that has gotten me into a financial situation where I am at the verge of bankruptcy. Now, over those past 4 years, I spent a lot of money on this bus. For the first 3 years of building this bus, I built this with my previous partner, Stephanie, and we were splitting the costs. When we started building this bus, we had an agreement that if we were to split up, one person would keep the bus and one person would be purchased out of the bus. And to do so, we kept a ledger, which kept track of all of our expenses that each one of us had put into the bus. We tried to keep things even as best as we could. At the end of our relationship, we had both invested about $63,000. When we split up, it was determined that I would keep the bus. I would pay her back the amount that she had put into the bus. Now, the agreement made with the lawyers was that I give her a $15,000 deposit. I would pay her the remaining balance over 2 years. So that's 24 payments at $800 per payment and a down payment of $15,000. Now, when we split up, I had no money, really. I had put everything I had into this bus. So to get the deposit to be able to take this bus home with me, I had to go to the bank and get a line of credit to give her $15,000. Hi, this is Editor Adam from the future. I just quickly want to tell you the story of actually getting the bus, because it was a super expensive trip. So after I paid Stephanie the $15,000, I went to Southern Ontario to go pick up the bus. The bus had been sitting beside Stephanie's parents' house on some grass, which was fine in the wintertime when the ground was frozen, but in the spring, the ground had thawed and the bus sunk into the ground. I tried to drive it back, which just sunk it in even deeper, and then I tried to kind of rock the bus forward and back out of the hole that it made, and I blew a brake line. I was losing so much brake fluid that I thought that something was on fire because it looked like smoke coming from underneath the bus, but it was actually a mist of brake fluid. So I needed to get a tow to pull it out of the hole that it was in. It cost me $500 to just get it pulled out of the spot that it was in onto solid ground. Once it was on solid ground, I made the decision that I was going to tow it to a local garage because I didn't want to drive it with such a bad brake leak. The driver was nice enough to give me a deal, and since he was already there, he said $200 cash, he'll drive it to the nearest garage that'll work on it. So in total, it cost me $700 just to get it from the spot that it was stuck to a garage.
If you're mounting anything underneath your Skoolie, if you need a tow, this is how they mount it. And you can see my water tanks were kind of in the way, and you almost wasn't able to grab onto it. So if you're still designing your school bus, don't put things too close to the frame at the rear. Luckily, he was able to get the chains through, but almost didn't. That's a heavy tow right there.
It is. Now, the way that I got down there was my friend Jerry actually brought his van, and we were staying in it and drove down there with it. And so I was paying for his fuel costs, his food, because he was nice enough to do this for me. So the brake line to actually fix the problem cost me about $300, and then the garage charged me $300 to install it, which is actually a pretty good deal. They were really nice at the garage. They did kind of a cash deal for me. So it was a $600 fix. It also cost $250 to drive the bus from Southern Ontario back to Sudbury. So all in all, it cost me almost $2,000 just to get it home. A very expensive start to owning the bus on my own. Now, the last year has been a rough one for me and my business. I'm a video producer. I run a company called Left Right Media. Now, I closed shop in my hometown to leave with her to Southern Ontario. Now, in doing so, I screwed myself because that was my primary source of income. So over the past year, I've been trying to piece my life back together. At the same time, I was going through a lot of emotional distress. I have ADHD, and that spiraled out of control in the last year. And in that time, I wasn't making a lot of money, and I was giving her $800 a month. I am now in about $35,000 worth of debt. Now, one of the conditions during the breakup was that if I don't make payment to Stephanie, the bus will go back to her. And if I go bankrupt, she gets the bus. So bankruptcy would end in me losing the bus, and me not paying her ends in me not keeping the bus. I am in a pinch where I need to prioritize making money and paying off debt and paying Stephanie her monthly amount so that I can maintain ownership of this bus. Now, in the last 6 months, things keep breaking in this bus. When winter hit, my faucet and my sink broke because the temperature in here dropped below zero accidentally when my heater randomly shut off. And the engine is giving me random issues where it just shuts down at intersections. As well, my primary inverter in my electrical system failed, and I had to replace it with a new one, which cost me like $1,500. So things keep breaking, I have no money, and I'm pinched in a scenario where if I don't make payment, I will lose everything. So it was becoming unlivable in here. Then, just out of luck, my car stopped working. My car is a plug-in hybrid. I don't know how to work on that, even knowing I'm mechanically inclined. So I brought it to the dealership. They quoted me $2,500 to fix it, and I just don't have that money. I don't have money to fix my sink. I don't have money to fix my shower. I don't have money to keep the heat on in here. The bus also costs about $300 a month in diesel to keep it warm. Now, this was extremely stressful for me about 6 months ago because this is where I lived. I had nowhere else to go. And if I lost this, I would be homeless. Now, I have not been focusing on making YouTube videos, a mixture between my ADHD, and it's just really not a profitable thing to do. And so this has become kind of on the back burner, and I haven't been fixing this bus. I have not done a whole lot of work on it. You can still see exposed walls. I can't afford to finish it right now. I want to kind of dig into how building these things are expensive and how cost can really run away from you. I see a lot of videos about these $15,000 Skoolie conversion builds. I just don't get it. I don't understand how my buses cost $80,000 and these people are building buses for $15,000 and their buses are functional. The budget for this thing has really gotten out of control. Our initial budget goal was $27,000, and we crossed that like a year in. Me and Stephanie had some expensive taste. We always wanted everything to be done right or done really well or high end. Neither of us would sacrifice anything. And because of that, the cost just really spiraled out of control. Really, the biggest cost driver has been little knick-knack things. It's like tape, wire, trim, lumber, nuts and bolts, and screws, and just things like that that really run up that it's very hard to predict how much it's going to cost. And these little trips back and forth to Princess Auto, it's like $100 a day just buying stuff that you think you need and then you don't end up needing. And all the tools that you only use once have really caused the price of this thing to really blow up. Now, I really think that an experienced builder who has built buses previously, who already has the tools and most of the supplies and knows what they're doing and isn't going to do things twice, is going to be able to half the cost of building one of these things. Now, if you got in your head that you can do it for $15,000 and you're different, I applaud you to try and get back to me on how you've done it. I really don't know how you could build one of these for that, like with the vehicle price included. This bus costs about $3,500 for just the bus itself. That really leaves you with like $12,000. I just don't get it. Things that I'm happy that I spent extra money on and taking the time to do have been things like sheet metaling the sides of the bus, putting in windows. I really do like the windows that I have, but these windows were really expensive. They're like $350 a window, and they didn't need to be this nice. And what's really annoying is I feel like I've done a lot of things to save money and make this more budget friendly, and it's still super expensive. All of the wood that I use to build this thing is pine, and pine's super cheap and dents easily, and still super expensive. Still spent a lot of money on pine. The electrical system that I designed and built is super cost effective considering its size. I've done a lot of things that have been cost-cutting measures, and it's unfortunate that even though I did a lot of those things, this bus is still way super expensive. Now, I don't know if this is also attributed to just the cost of living and the cost of everything going up recently, or if I'm just doing it wrong, or I'm doing it the expensive way. Some things that I've spent money on that really bug me are the floor in this bus. The floor is breaking apart. Really bothers me. I spent like $400 on the floor, and it's not worth it at all. So I guess I should have spent $600 to buy even more expensive flooring that wouldn't break apart. Spent a lot of money on the tile in this bus. That was super expensive. But really, I can't point to one thing that's super expensive in this bus. I really, there's no like one item that I could say, that thing is the reason why this bus is so expensive. I could probably say the paint job might be one of the bigger expenses. I think we spent like $3,000 in paint. I think like $1,000 for primer and $1,000 for paint, and $1,000 in the supplies. And so I think that the paint job might have been the biggest expense. But I'm happy with the paint job, and that's usually people's first impression of the bus is like, wow, that paint job's nice. Future Adam again, but even further from the future. So far that my hair is now this long. That's how long it's taken to make this video. I've looked at this ledger a little bit more, and I've discovered a couple things that I really want to discuss. I was going on about how the paint was probably the most expensive thing in this bus, and the paint wasn't actually that much. The actual paint itself, according to this ledger, so for primer was $328. For the blue paint, the hardener, and some other miscellaneous stuff that was purchased at the same time, $1,250, which is a lot for paint. But that's 5 gallons of industrial paint. Black paint for the accents, we spent $156. So all in all, we're looking at maybe $1,700 worth of paint, and then all of the supplies to do the paint job. So yeah, maybe the paint job cost $3,000. That was not the most expensive single project on this bus. The most expensive project on paper was the bathroom. Let me just take a peek at this here. Stephanie spent just in tile samples to figure out which tile she wanted. She spent $250 on samples. And then there's another line here that's just tile that says $458.99 from Wayfair. When she actually bought the tile, she bought it from Tile Expert, and it cost $1,547. Now this doesn't count for all the underlayment and all of like the floor pan and everything else that was required to make the bathroom waterproof. So all in all, together, that costs about $3,100. So that's almost twice as expensive as the paint job, just for the tile bathroom. Another thing in that bathroom that was super overpriced, and I get they're expensive, but when you look at the product, it shouldn't be that expensive. And that is the composting toilet. We paid $1,783. It's a glorified bucket with a turn handle and a fan. Why would it cost $1,700? Another really annoying cost that I see in here was the water filters, mainly because they just broke recently. She paid $705 for the water filter and then paid $181 in duties. So we're looking at almost $900 for a 3-stage filter that I could have probably built for $250, $300. Another thing that I was reminded of by this ledger was the backup camera system. We paid way too much for the camera system. For some reason, we wanted side cameras at the time, and now I've learned that side cameras are completely useless. I've shut off the view for the side cameras, and I only look at the backup camera. And I could have bought a backup camera off of Amazon for maybe $200. We ended up buying this backup system, this 3-camera backup system, for $600 from Taddy Brothers. But when they sent the backup camera to us, they sent it with the wrong screen. So the cameras didn't work with the screen. The harnesses didn't work. So we messaged them trying to fix this problem, and they sent it, but we ended up having to pay duties on it. We paid $185 in duties. So $600 for the camera system and then $185 for duties. So now we're paying $700 and almost $800 for a backup camera. And I looked into the Windows cost here. We have Windows for $1,413.77. Windows again $696.15, and another one which is just $1,000. So it looks like we spent about $3,000 on the Windows. But I think the Windows are worth it. I have no anger inside of me about how much we paid for the Windows. They're really high quality. They don't leak. They serve their purpose. They look really good. I'm okay with spending some money on things like this. I'm not okay with spending $1,000 on a backup camera, or $2,000 on a toilet, or $1,000 on a water filter that is now broken. Anyways, back to past Adam with shorter hair. So yeah, this bus is super expensive. So the last year has been pretty rough. In the middle of 2023, I met someone who is very special to me. Her name is Caitlin. As I was going through these difficulties, she offered to help. I basically had nowhere to live and had no way to get around. She lived in a house and she has a car and works from home. So she offered that I could stay with her. She's kind of really changed my life. What I envisioned to be my life has completely changed. Before, I wanted to live this Instagram, YouTube, van life dream. And now, I'm just happy doing whatever I'm doing. Previously, I had become very emotionally disconnected. I'm just so happy. Even though my car is broken, I have absolutely no money. My future is a huge question. I just can't seem to get my shit together. I'm pretty much homeless. She has changed it all. It's funny, last year I wasn't in debt. Everything I owned worked. My envisioned future to live that van life was there, and I was just so unhappy. In April, it'll be 1 year since the official split of me and Steph, and in that time, it's been a roller coaster for me. I never imagined my life would be what it is right now. On paper, I'm doing horribly. I'm really doing bad on paper. But emotionally, I've never been happier. So this dream is on pause. I'm not giving up. I'll never give up. This is in my soul. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.